Donald Trump's chief propagandist, Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, just held a disastrous press conference at the White House as she and the Trump regime tried to continue and cover up the fact that war plans were put on an unclassified text message chat where a reporter was invited into the chat. Karoline Leavitt here says what's really going on is there's a coordinated plan by the media to attack the Trump regime. Play this clip.
But unfortunately, this is not what the Democrats and the media want to talk about. They are focused on a coordinated campaign to try and sow chaos in this White House. And this has been the most successful first 2 months of any administration ever, which is exactly why they are doing this. We are not going to bend in the face of this insincere outrage.
Next, Karoline Leavitt says that there were absolutely no war plans, and even The Atlantic admits there's no war plans at all. Play this clip.
But the mainstream media continues to be focused on a sensationalized story from the failing Atlantic magazine that is falling apart by the hour. Here are the facts. The National Security Advisor has taken responsibility for this matter. And the National Security Council immediately said, alongside the White House counsel's office, that they are looking into how a reporter's number was inadvertently added to this messaging thread. We have said all along that no classified material was sent on this messaging thread. There were no locations, no sources or methods revealed, and there were certainly no war plans discussed. The Atlantic has even admitted this themselves. Their release of these internal messages validates the truth, which we have been saying all along. If this story proves anything, it proves that Democrats and their propagandists in the mainstream media know how to fabricate, orchestrate, and disseminate a misinformation campaign quite well.
Folks, that's not what The Atlantic said, and we will let you judge for yourself. Just one of the text messages from this unclassified thread where they were actually discussing highly classified information, sensitive compartmented information, war plans. That is classified. It does not belong on that text thread. From Pete Hegseth, team update. Time now, 11:44 Eastern Time. Weather favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM. We are a go for mission launch. 12:15 Eastern Time. F-18's launch. First strike package. 13:45. Trigger based. F-18. First strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location and should be on time. Also, strike drones launched. MQ-9s. 14:10. More F-18s launched. Second strike package. Yeah, those are called war plans. That's the most highly classified information that exists. And what the Department of Defense and the Trump regime propagandists were saying is because today the Atlantic's headline said, here are the attack plans that Trump advisors shared on Signal. The Trump regime saying, you see, they're calling it attack plans. They were saying it was a war plan before. Honestly, they are the worst liars as well. Speaking of the worst liars as well, here's Karoline Leavitt again saying, why did they downgrade their allegation and now call it attack plans? Karoline, we've read the messages. Here, play this clip.
Again, this message, there was no classified information transmitted. There were no war plans discussed. Why did the Atlantic downgrade their allegation about war plans to attack plans? They're now playing word games because they know this was sensationalist spin from a...
Then Karoline Leavitt says, all this shows is that Donald Trump and his team are national security first. Play this clip.
Goldberg, who is a registered Democrat and an anti-Trump sensationalist reporter. This president and this national security team are putting our national security and the American people first. We are restoring American strength around.
You know, in any other normal time, these people would not just be fired. They would be arrested. They would be indicted under the Espionage Act, and they would be serving serious prison sentences. This is as criminal as it gets, in my opinion, when it comes to the reckless handling of classified information and war plans. Then Caitlin Collins from CNN tries to ask a question of Karoline Leavitt, who refuses to take the question. Play this clip.
Philip.
And on my follow-up on what you had just said.
Go ahead, Philip. Caitlin, I'm not taking your follow-up.
I have a follow-up on something you just said, though, Caroline. That's
Caitlin, regarding Jeffrey Goldsberg. Taking your follow-up. Philip, go ahead. I've called you.
Then a Fox host, Jackie Heinrich, asks the question, why aren't launch times on mission strikes classified? And Karoline Leavitt's like, so who are you going to trust? Are you going to trust Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, or Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief at The Atlantic, who was put on this text? Who are you going to trust? Play this clip.
Basis I was asking.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, Karoline. So why aren't launch times on a mission strike classified?
Again, I would defer you to the Secretary of Defense's statement he put out this morning. There were various reasons he listed, things that were not included in that messaging thread that were not classified. And again, going back to the American public, do you trust the Secretary of Defense, who was nominated for this role, voted by the United States Senate into this role, who has served in combat, honorably served our nation in uniform? Or do you trust Jeffrey Goldberg, who is a registered Democrat and an anti-Trump sensationalist reporter? This president and this national security team are putting our national security and the American people first. We are restoring American.
Yeah, I'm going to trust my own eyes, Karoline Leavitt, before I trust this guy. Earlier this morning, Pete Hegseth, while he was in Honolulu, Hawaii, walked away from the most basic questions being asked, like, did you declassify that information before you put it in the chat? Play this clip.
Strength, and we'll keep putting our troops first. Thank you very much. We're heading off.
Strike plans before they launched. Mr. Secretary, how do you square what you said with what your messages show? Mr. Secretary, did you share classified information? Mr. Secretary, did you declassify that information before you put it in the chat? Are you using Signal for sensitive operations? Why? Sir. Okay.
And then also Hegseth said the following, that nobody's texting war plans. Play this clip.
Just what we're here to do. Nobody's texting war plans. Well, I noticed this morning out came something that doesn't look like war plans. And as a matter of fact, they even changed the title to attack plans because they know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information. You know who sees war plans? I see them every single day. I looked at them this morning. I looked at attack plans this morning. You know who?
Then going back to Karoline Leavitt's disastrous press conference at the White House, she goes, this message proves that Donald Trump and his team are dynamic and they're incredible. Here, play this clip.
And his team. And this message also shows, this messaging thread also proved that President Trump has an incredibly dynamic team who is working incredibly hard, flying all over the world to secure world peace and to fix up the foreign policy crises that the previous administration left for this team to inherit.
No, it proves that y'all are incompetent and criminal, and that not only that, but you're willing to lie about everything, and you are the worst liars. You're not even good liars. I mean, what you were rolling out yesterday when you were like, you know, this is like kind of like when you send your aunt like naughty pictures that weren't intended to go to your aunt. Like, you know, what are you even talking about? That's not... First off, who's doing that, number one? And then number two, this is like when you give war plans on a Signal group thread where it doesn't belong and you place the lives of agents, assets, military in jeopardy. And then when you go about it in such a cavalier way that it seems obvious that you just do all of your classified business this way to try to keep it off public records requests in the future and off the archives. And who knows what Russia now has and what our enemies now have, or, you know, I'm sure Donald Trump maybe even shared it with him anyway. Who the hell knows? So then Karoline Leavitt is asked, what about what Pete Hegseth wrote, which I shared with you before? What makes you say this is not classified? And then she's like, oh, because he said it. Duh. That's why. Duh. Play this clip.
Then let me ask you, if I can, very quickly. In the chat, Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, details F-18s, Tomahawks, with some of the weapons that were used. He details the timing involved for this, all of which occurred 31 minutes before, as he says, F-18s would launch. The DoD manual details classified information as significant military plans, saying that is secret, that's classified. So what about, there are no methods, there are no sources, but that's not what determines what's classified. So what is it about what what Pete Hegseth wrote that makes you say this is not classified?
Well, it's not just me saying that, Peter. It's the Secretary of Defense himself who is saying this as well. And he put out a very strong statement earlier today listing all of the things that were not included in that message that he sent to the group. And again, this message, there was no classified information transmitted. There were no war plans discussed. Why did the Atlantic downgrade their allegation about war plans to attack plans? They're now playing word games because they know this was sensationalist spin from a...
So that was what's going on with Karoline Leavitt. At the same time, there was a press conference being held by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Marco Rubio was trying to distance himself from Hegseth. You can see it here where Rubio's asked, what makes you think this wasn't classified? And Rubio's response is, well, I'm just telling you what the defense secretary said. He's saying it's not classified. Play this.
And again, I think the Pentagon's made clear that nothing on there would have endangered the lives or the mission. And the mission's been very successful.
Is it classified, the information?
Well, the Pentagon says it was not. And not only did it say it was not, they make very clear that it didn't put in danger anyone's life or the mission. The intelligence.
As our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, says, Rubio busy constructing a firewall between himself and Hegseth, knowing that guy's incompetence could take him down someday. Then Rubio says, to his credit at least, although it's a bare minimum, somebody made a big mistake by adding the journalist. No, the big mistake or the crime was putting it on the Signal chat, but saying that that was a big mistake is the furthest you're going to see the Trump regime go. Here's what Rubio says. Let's play it.
First question, let me just say on the Signal thing. This thing was set up for purposes of coordinating how everyone was going to call. When these things happen, I need to call foreign ministers, especially of our close allies. We need to notify members of Congress. Other members of the team have different people they need to notify as well. And that was the purpose of why it was set up. Obviously, someone made a mistake. Someone made a big mistake and added a journalist. Nothing against journalists, but you ain't supposed to be on that thing. So they got on there and this happened. I've been, so I can speak to myself or my presence on it. I think my role on it was just speaking for my role. I contributed to it twice. I identified my point of contact, which is my chief of staff. And then later on, I think 3 hours after the White House's official announcements had been made, I congratulated the members of the team. I've been assured by the Pentagon and everyone involved that none of the information that was on there, though not intended to be divulged, obviously that was a mistake and that shouldn't have happened and the White House is looking at it, but that none of the information on there at any point threaten the operation or the lives of our servicemen. And in fact, it was a very successful operation. It is an ongoing operation.
But then Rubio says there were no war plans. Look, I showed you the document. Assess for yourself if that was a war plan. It clearly was. And if this is how they're going to lie to your face, think about what they're saying every day to lie to your face. Here, play this clip.
Very successful.
Is it classified, the information?
Well, the Pentagon says it was not. And not only did it say it was not, they make very clear that it didn't put in danger anyone's life or the mission. There was no intelligence information. And understand, when this story first broke, they were sort of alluding to where there were war maps or there was no war plans on there. This was a sort of description of what we could inform our counterparts around the world when the time came to do so.
Then Marco Rubio says that he tries to distance himself. He goes, look, I only contributed twice to the thread. I gave someone a point of contact. I wasn't even really paying attention to it. Here, play this clip.
So they got on there and this happened. I've been, so I can speak to myself or my presence on it. I think my role on it was just speaking for my role. I contributed to it twice. I identified my point of contact, which is my chief of staff. And then later on, I think 3 hours after the White House's official announcements had been made, I congratulated the members of the team. I've been assured by the Pentagon and everyone involved that none of the information that was on there, though not intended to be divulged, obviously that was a mistake and that shouldn't have happened and the White House is looking at it, but that none of the information on there at any point threatened the operation or the lives of our servicemen. And in fact, it was a very successful operation. It is an ongoing operation.
Oh, going back to Karoline Leavitt, she's asked a question. Hey, Dave Portnoy, kind of a right-wing Trumper, he's saying that Mike Waltz needs to resign and people need to resign. What's your response to that, Karoline Leavitt? That even the big Trumper, media people are saying that there needs to be resignations. Play this clip.
Can you just clarify who is investigating, who's leading that, and also Dave Portnoy, who endorsed President Trump, said today that he thinks that Mike Waltz should leave. Could you respond to that?
Sure. Great respect for Dave Portnoy, but I just answered that previous question from Jennifer. As for your original question about who's looking into the messaging thread, the National Security Council, the White House counsel's office, and also, yes, Elon Musk's team. Elon Musk has offered to put his technical experts on this to figure out how this number was inadvertently added to the chat. Again, to take responsibility and ensure this can never happen again.
And while all of that was going on, Donald Trump held a press conference. Again, while he's tanking the markets, Donald Trump applauds Karoline Leavitt and says how great she is, and that lots of people said she was, too immature to handle it. But he goes, she's doing a great job. Play this clip.
Karoline, look at you, huh? They said, sir, she's just too young. And I said, I don't know about that. She did awfully good because she did it during the campaign and she was awfully good. And she's been amazing. She just did another one just a little while ago. She looked at Susie and looked at me. I don't know. I think I'm ready, sir. How old are you? 27, right? 27. I said, you're not too young. And she's knocking them dead. Everyone's talking about you. Thank you very much. Great job.
What Donald Trump always wanted was the pink dress lady that Kim Jong-un in North Korea has. Karoline Leavitt's willing to say anything. It doesn't matter how stupid it looks. She looks at the camera and she's like, yes, we all know that what Pete Hegseth says is always true. And Donald Trump, our dear leader, never lies. And this is all a media conspiracy. Well, you get the team that represents you and Donald Trump. It's a team of idiots, morons, dangerous people who I believe hate the United States of America and who are playing games with all of our lives. And that's why the American people are pissed. That's why we see the American people standing up. That's why we see a plus 15 district in freaking Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, flip from red to blue for the first time since 1889. Big change is upon us because America is sick and tired of this MAGA, Trump, Doge, Elon Musk crap. Tell me what you think in the comments below. I'm Ben Meiselas. This is the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers.
The truth is more important than ever. Check out our new Truth Over Lies collection at store.meidastouch.com. All 100% USA union made.